Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The public hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication will now come to order. Notice of the public hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets via electronic format on Monday, April 3rd, 2017, with a second notice provided on Friday, April 7th, 2017. Notice of the hearing was also made known to the Guam Legislature's website. We only have one particular item, piece of legislation that is before the committee at this time, and this is Bill number 8-34 COR, introduced and sponsored by the Committee on Rules, by request of the Maga'Låhen Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam. An act to add a new Chapter 8 to Title 11, Guam Code Annotated, known as the Cannabis Control Act, relative to regulating the use, production, sale, and taxation of cannabis, and the declassification of marijuana as a Schedule I controlled substance under the Guam Uniform Controlled Substances Act. I do have a statement on behalf of the Chair of Appropriations and Adjudication, and the statement reads as follows. Day. I am sorry that I could not be here with each of you today. I want to thank this committee's Vice Chair for agreeing to reconvene this important hearing on my behalf. The sole matter before the committee today is Bill number 8-34 COR, introduced by the Committee on Rules at the request of Governor Calvo. The measure entitled the Cannabis Control Act seeks to regulate the use, production, and sale of cannabis on Guam, as well as the declassification of marijuana as a Schedule I controlled substance under the Uniform Controlled Substances Act. As I have said before, I support Governor Calvo's measure in principle. Yet, I cannot ignore the White House declaration of a potential crackdown on the non-medical use of cannabis in the several states. The endorsement of these policies by U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, or the absence of Guam's own Alicia Liptiaco as U.S. Attorney for Guam and the CNMI. In fact, Attorney General Sessions left little doubt about his personal views, saying in late February, states they can pass the laws they choose, he said. I would just say it does remain a violation of federal law to distribute marijuana throughout any place in the United States, whether a state legalizes it or not. Sessions' comments echoed White House spokesman Sean Spicer, who predicted harsher prosecution of marijuana under the Trump administration at a press briefing. Quote, I do believe you'll see greater enforcement of it, unquote. He said, clarifying what the Trump administration believes to be a distinction between the medical use of cannabis and its non-medical counterpart. Spicer clarified that the Trump administration supports medical marijuana, but Spicer said, quote, that's very different than recreational use, which is something the Department of Justice will be further looking into. To be clear, no one can know for certain what actions the Department of Justice may or may not take. We cannot know if a potentially legal act under Guam law may make someone a criminal under federal law, and it is under this uncertain shadow that we are gathered. Out of respect for Governor Calvo, who authored this bill, and in recognition of the new federal complexities now tied to this measure, I actively sought his input and nothing came. Nothing until today when in the Pacific Daily News, Governor Calvo echoed what I have said for weeks. In light of Washington, D.C.'s unsteadiness, Guam must move cautiously with this measure, but fundamentally commit itself to a medical cannabis program that assists patients whose only sin is being sick and needing our help. I thank those that are here today and look forward to the testimony the committee receives during this and the next hearing. It remains my sincere hope that through these discussions, we get one step closer to resolving key issues surrounding cannabis use on Guam. Thank you, and this is the statement that was provided by the Chairman of the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication, who is presently off island and will be returning to the island very soon in the next few days. Like was mentioned in the comments, we do have Bill number 8-34, and let me invite a few individuals to the front, and then I will recognize my colleagues who are here. Mr. Seth Freeland Sangan, if I can invite you to the front table. Peter Mateo, Ted Nelson, Senator Ted Nelson, Senator Howard Trapp, Eric Palacios, Gemma Dane and Sung Hong. Once again, if you signed in and if in fact you're going to be providing oral testimony, I would like to invite you up front. And before we recognize the comments from the public, I'd like to recognize my colleagues who are here. Senator Will Castro, thank you very much, Senator, for joining us this afternoon for this public hearing, and also Senator Tom Adams. Thank you, Senators. As I proceed, I just want to recognize that the committee has received written testimony from the Office of the Attorney General, from Mr. August Vest, and also from a Colin Kawaguchi. So, for the record, the committee has already received a number of testimonies prior to today's second public hearing. Mr. Lasangan, if you can please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Sir Honorable Senator Frank Agon. Good afternoon, Senator Ada, Senator Castro, and the rest of the legislature. I'm Seth Free Linsangan, concerned citizen. I'm opposing this bill of the governor due to the reason, so many reasons. First of all, the intention that he stipulated in the bill is good, but to my opinion, it's he cannot. The intention in Section 1 of Bill 8 cannot be met. It is clearly defined here that Guåhan finds that in the interest of promoting the efficient use of law enforcement resources. Now, how could you promote efficient use of the police officers if they will be overworked? Because there will be a lot of cases. So this is contrary. The word that he used, promoting the efficient, is contrary to what really will happen. We will be needing a lot of police officers because there will be a lot of crimes. Because in 1970, the U.S. Congress adopted the Controlled Substance Act, naming marijuana as Schedule 1 substance because it is associated with psychosis and violent crimes. Now, how could you promote efficient if there's already a data that support that will be needing a lot of police officers, and that means what? Another expense for the government. Now, the second, it is also defined here, enhancing revenue for public purposes. That's all still wrong. How could you enhance revenue when the government will be enduring a lot of expenses to combat the spread of crimes? And then the legislature and Guam have worked so hard to promote Guam as a tourist destination, family destination in the world. With the drug society now, how could you entice those family-oriented tourists? I think it will not be good for the economy for sure. And then the psychosis. Psychosis means a state of a person that is seriously disorganized and which in a person cannot think the actual reality because in short words, he's stoned. Third, enhancing individual freedom. You know, we got so many freedom here already. If you're talking about relaxation only, we can just be happy. Guam is a very relaxing place. Just watching TV in your house with your family, going out, going to so many malls, going to the beach is already a relaxing way. You know? And it's hard to regulate because in this bill, anybody above 21 or 21 years old can can cultivate or can plant marijuana in the enclosed area in their house. Regulation is always a problem. It won't be only 21 years old that will be doing this. And it will be hard to regulate. What happened to the slogan, no to drugs? Is this what we are promoting now? As for tourist destination, as a drug-free Guam, or drug Guam? I think this bill should be thrown away, should be withdrawn, or should be voted out. It's time for the senators to justify that you are worth more than what you are being paid for. We all know that your salaries are even enough to pay for or to help people, for everyday people that's coming to their office. That's why we need full-time legislator to provide check and balance against the executive government and other branches of government. How could you do it if you're a part-time legislator? Your mind got to be thinking every day. That's why my dear honorable senators, do not pass this bill. It will be bad for the island, for our children, for the future generation. And the revenue that he specified here, around 40 million, how could he prove that? There's no data to suffice that. And even it would generate 40 million, the negative ill effects will outweigh the positive gains. Of course, I support medical marijuana, especially for cancer patients, but not for this one. Other countries like in Europe or other states already legalized marijuana, but they're rich country. They have a facility for every village to attend to those that have drug disorder. Because this drug is different. You could be addicted, you could be restless, and you want more. You will not stop. Until what? Until you go to the next level. And then your future will be destroyed. We already have so many problems here in drugs, so why we will add some more and make it generalized? And that's not only the problem of Guam, but all over the world. In other countries in Europe, they have all the resources. They will build facility because they can afford it. Well, then if you do that, what will happen to the revenue for the other public services? That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lansangan, for your testimony this afternoon. Please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Peter Mateo. Just to set what's happening now, where I stand on this marijuana. I was once a drug addict. I was once an alcoholic. I was once a suicidal. I started using non-medical marijuana, but when they put out for the people to vote on that, I voted against it. I was diabetic. I was declared diabetic. I was arthritis, taking medication on that, tendonitis. But to think about medical marijuana, scientific, they got some good parts in that, but I didn't vote for it. The reason why I didn't vote for it because I stand behind those two flags, and I'm going to be honest to you guys today. God healed me from diabetic. God healed me from arthritis. God healed me from tendonitis. Now this recreational marijuana, sir, Mr. Governor and Senators, you are my governor and you are my senator because I voted for you. But I stand against this. One time I was using recreational marijuana back in my military days in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was a paratrooper for 3 years. And the time that I started using this was when I landed on the trees. I missed the drop zone. The red light came on the C-130. John Masters kept letting people out. When I reached the ground, I said, this is a dangerous job for me. But I kept my promise of keeping my contract with the military. But I found out that some of my friends were using drugs. So I tried using marijuana just for recreational. And it became worse because I started drinking. And the more I get high, the more I drink. I served the military for 6 years. I ended up in Schofield Barracks. That was drug heaven when I got there. Leaders in my unit, lieutenants, captain, my platoon leaders, my platoon sergeant were using drugs. I got caught in the test, positive. I was holding the rank of E6. Automatically, they disbarred me from reenlistment. Article 15, half a month's pay. They sent me to maybe 3 days to see a psychiatrist because they were wondering with my record, why are you using drugs? They were willing to give me a chance. I said, no, I want to go home. I was sent home with a general discharge under honorable condition. Sad to say that I broke my bad habits here in Guam. I started planting marijuana on the back road of Anderson by the buckets. I started planting marijuana down right in Senanya, Didigi, my homeland. The thing about it, sir, is it leads me to more drinking. The more I get high, it is recreational. I just want to, and in the state, there's so many drugs. I tried Quaaludes, Black Beauty, Yellow Jacket, uppers, downers, acid. I came back to Guam, a messed up person. One time I was gonna shoot my 6 kids because the drugs. I wanted to quit, but if I turn myself in, I'll end up in jail. I was gonna just shoot them, shoot myself, I'll end up in hell. Sir, this recreational marijuana, we're going backwards. I worked with 5 years old. I retired from Head Start. A boy 5 years old was telling me, Mr. Peter, my dad smoked marijuana. I said, how do you know that? Oh, because his eyes is red. I said, come here, let's sit down and talk. My eyes is red when I use shampoo when I shower. No, Mr. Peter, his eyes is red. I said, tell me more. How do you know it's marijuana? And this 5 years old, sir, was doing this. He took a paper. My dad took a paper and put something in the paper and he wrote it like this. He's 5 years old, sir. And he told me, just step out of the room. And when he's done smoking, you let him in and all this smoke. I suicidal way back in early 91 because of the drugs. Not necessarily, I tried ice, but I didn't like ice. Marijuana was my favorite. I even grow it. I was a workaholic. I was holding a job. I don't need to buy this because I grow in my job site. I go in the back road of Anderson by the buckets. If they find buckets, so what? I still got. Twice, sir, I tried to kill my 6 kids because I wanted to stop. What happened, sir, was I met, and I stand here to declare that my God delivered me from this. I went to a church one Saturday night. I just saw a movie. There's a message after this movie. And they asked, if you want a change in life, come forward and we pray for you. Sir, God delivered me from my alcoholic. God delivered me from my addiction of drugs. Maybe my drug dealer was in church. Imagine that. That's the first person I met, my drug dealer. I stand before you, drug free. I no longer do drugs. I don't care about it. But what I care is what's happening to this island of Guam, sir. Recreational, and it says here, it will no longer be a crime to drive under the influence. Come on. I saw a car was swaying in the road. Can you justify that under the influence of Big Mac? The driver was eating and he was going like this on the road. Imagine if they're under the influence of THC. What will happen? It's no longer a crime when these people drive on the road under, when they're high and they get to that. I hope it won't happen. I hope that when my kids, my grandkids on their way to church, I hope that nobody will hit them on the road. Sir, I'm against this. Please. I'm begging you for my grandkids and for the young ones here in Guam. Really? Recreational marijuana? The kids are already doing it in school. I work in DOE. BMS? Come on. What more do we want? If they really need money because of, and they do this, why did they put that cameras on those traffic lights? Do they work? Or they just for something for the speeding cars so the drivers stop when there's yellow light? How many mornings that I go to my work and I see a lot of drivers run the red light? Imagine that. Just one morning. I missed count already, sir. Because I was focusing on my driving. Imagine if they really push that, and I don't know if they did. I heard that there's no funding for it. There's not enough people to manage. But imagine, for every day the drivers that run the red light, come on, send them the mail, send them the ticket. They'll pay for it or end up in jail. Please, sir, don't pass this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
And
Mateo.
one more thing, sir. Medical marijuana. There's some scientific proof on that. But like I said, God heal me from what I just mentioned, my disease of diabetic, arthritis, tendonitis. I'm also for the disease of drugs. It alters your mind. When I was jumping out in the airplane high on marijuana, I don't really care because I wasn't scared. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you again, Mr. Mateo, for your testimony this afternoon. I'd like to also recognize Vice Speaker Delahi, Senator Sanat Hussain, and Senator Nelson. Thank you very much, Senators, for joining us this afternoon. Eric, if you could please identify yourself for the record.
Buenas tardes and happy day. My name is Eric Palacios. I'm with the Office of the Governor of Guam. My testimony today is going to consist of reiterating the article that was quoted. The article that was quoted earlier, I believe in the Pacific Daily News, wherein Governor Calvo stated a position on the administration's efforts specific to this bill, and that is that the administration is, among its options, suspending its push on this bill in light of the changing federal landscape, in light of the pronouncement by the highest elected legal officer of the United States, Attorney General Sessions, and I understand that the legislature intends to continue to move forward with at least one more public hearing regarding Bill 8.
Mr. Palacios, just so that we're clear on the record, the governor is rescinding his push on this measure?
Well, we are pausing any further movement on the bill in light of the changing federal landscape with regards to the governance of
So that is
issues.
the official position of the governor?
Yes, sir.
Only because this piece of legislation was introduced at the behest of the governor. So we will complete this particular public hearing and then leave the discretion to the speaker how he would like to proceed.
Correct.
But I'm glad that you're on the record recognizing that the governor would like to suspend any further action on this measure until such time that the landscape in Washington, D.C. clears.
Just to be clear, action that we control, action that we have purview over, which is that it originated from the front office. And so I agree with you in that what Speaker Cruz intends to do, to include possibly holding the third and final public hearing on it next month, I mean, we're going to defer to him on that. But again, just to reiterate what the governor stated in an article that you quoted earlier.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Palacios. Traditionally, what we would do is if the sponsor of any particular legislation would like to rescind any further movement of that legislation, then it would either remain in the committee or it would be removed from the docket and withdrawn. But recognizing that there are representatives from the public who are here, we're going to proceed with this particular hearing and then leave it to the discretion of the speaker and how he wants to work with the governor's office in regards to the disposition of this particular measure. Okay?
And I
Thank you,
agree with
Mr.
that.
Palacios.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Calmada, you recognize.
Mr. Palacios, I think that change of position is quite significant. I'm surprised that you know it's not committed to writing. I mean, I believe that what you're saying, you're conveying the governor's position, but I think it's a significant change, and it really merits or warrants a written statement to that effect. Would that be forthcoming from the administration?
I will speak with our legal team and provide more information. I don't see why we wouldn't, in other words.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Senator Ada. And that's one of the reasons why, as the acting chair, I will proceed with this public hearing. And I recognize that there's been a suggestion by Senator Ada that it be given and provided in writing. And I did mention that I would leave it to the discretion of the speaker as to how he would like to proceed with the disposition of this measure. Because it did originate from the governor's office, so certainly we need to respect the sponsor and the initial mover of this piece of legislation before it moves forward. But because there's members of the public who are here who would like to present their perspective on the measure, we're certainly going to proceed on that. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Palacios. I'm going to call again the individuals who were called on the first list, and if by any chance you're going to provide oral testimony, please, I would like to invite you to the front. Senator Ted Nelson, Senator Howard Trapp, Gemma Dane, Sung Hong. I would like to invite also the following individuals: Marcel Cepeda, Andrea Pelacani, Rocky Blas, and August Fest, and then Koichi Maeda. If you're going to be providing oral testimony, you're more than welcome to grab a seat up front. Once again, if I can invite also the following individuals: Marcel Cepeda, Andrea Pelacani, Rocky Blas, August Fest, and Koichi Maeda. Senator, if you could just identify yourself for the record. Attorney Trapp, and then proceed.
Mr. Chairman, may it please the members of this committee, my reason I'm here is I couldn't care less whether we have recreational marijuana or not, because we have recreational marijuana, and the human race has been using mind-enhancing drugs since before recorded history. And you know as well as I do that the use of marijuana around the island is very common. And the federal government is prosecuting us, by the way. I represent somebody who has been using marijuana.
I'm sorry, Attorney Trapp.
Yes?
Sorry, if you could just pull the mic up a little closer.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a big echo in here. That's the problem, I think. Okay. My question is, what I'm concerned about is if you go ahead and do this when you have absolutely and positively no legal authority to do so, where do you draw the line? The first place, the governor has no authority whatsoever to submit a bill that cannot be in any way, shape, or form considered by this legislature, nor can he support it. That's in the Organic Act. And in the Organic Act, you cannot in any way, shape, or form pass this bill as being in any way legal. Now, I've heard that they do it in California. Wonderful. California has a constitution that doesn't say that you cannot, that you have to, that your legislative power cannot be inconsistent with the laws of the United States, because they are a sovereign state and a group of sovereign states called the United States of America. But in our Organic Act is where you derive your powers, whether you like it or not, whether you're in favor of a plebiscite and getting independence. Nevertheless, each and every one of you, your authorities, is in the Organic Act, and Organic Act Section 11 says, the legislative power of Guam shall extend to all rightful subjects of legislation not inconsistent with the laws of the United States applicable to Guam. Now somehow, they started calling that inorganic. Well, I know what inorganic is. I have a marble desk in my office. That's inorganic, and the flower that's growing on it is organic. It's whether it's consistent with the laws of the United States, and it is not, because what you're getting yourself into is you're getting yourself into the marijuana business inconsistently with Title 21 of the United States Code. So you can't do that. I mean, there's nothing to debate about it. If you pass this law, if anybody takes it to court, to the federal court with a judicial challenge, it'll get thrown out so fast your head will spin. The idea also, as a matter of policy, the idea of taxing the marijuana, the problem that we have with methamphetamine, for example. I had a client sitting across the desk from me, and he said, and he brought in some methamphetamine and got arrested at the airport from Manila. And I sat him down, and when he first met with me, and said, what's the penalty? I said, 20 years. He says, 20 years? Why 20 years? And I said, because when you bring it in, you take a big risk, and that's what you're getting paid for. The risk. It costs next to nothing to produce methamphetamine, which, by the way, was invented by the Nazis during World War II, as an aside. And it's made out of some kind of nose drops or something in people's kitchens. But nevertheless, now if you make it expensive, then if you tax it, then the cost of it is going to go up, and people will be dealing in it without paying the tax. You know what I'm saying? In other words, they'll get in the marijuana business where they don't have to pay the tax. They'll be selling it cheaper than the people who are paying the tax. And so I don't think any tax is going to be paid because of that as a practical matter. Now the governor has submitted this bill. He can't introduce the bill, but he can submit a bill, and that's what's happened. And the Committee on Rules has filed it. You took each one of you took an oath of office. Every member of the legislature and all officers of the government of Guam, including the Director of Public Health, I might say, in another context, shall take the following oath or affirmation. I solemnly swear or affirm in the presence of Almighty God that I will well and faithfully support the Constitution of the United States, the laws of the United States applicable to Guam, and the laws of Guam, and I will conscientiously and impartially discharge my duties as a member of the Guam Legislature. You're not doing that. What you're doing right now is you are not supporting the laws of the United States. It's just the opposite. You're passing something that is contrary to the laws of the United States. Now, can you legalize marijuana? Of course you can legalize marijuana under the local laws. All you have to do is take all the statutes that have the word marijuana in it and take the word marijuana out of it, because there is no law and no requirement that we pass laws that are supportive of or the mirror image of laws of the United States. The United States makes it illegal. We don't have to make it illegal, but we can't get in the business of just growing and licensing and distributing marijuana and taxing it, because that is in violation of the Title 21 of the United States Code, Section 841A1. It's manufacturing and it's possessing with intent to distribute, etc. So it simply cannot be done. And the Governor of Guam cannot support such a thing, and nor can he introduce a bill, because it says in Article 6 of the Organic Act, and nobody seems to pay any attention to this these days. I brought this up originally with respect to medical marijuana, which I don't have a moral position on. The Governor of Guam, quote, shall be responsible for the faithful execution of the laws of Guam and the laws of the United States applicable to Guam. Now, he seems to be confused, and people generally seem to be confused. They seem to think, well, he's our governor. Well, in a sense, he's our governor in the sense that we elected him But he's not exactly our governor. He's the federal government's governor because who created his job? The Congress. And who told him that if he's going to have the job, he has to be responsible for the faithful execution of the laws of the United States applicable to Guam? The federal government. He accepted that, and he took the same oath that that you good folks took. And so he can't legally even introduce that bill because he's not supposed to. Now, for example, just to use an analogy, this thing about the plebiscite, he's pushing for the plebiscite, and I say, fine, anybody can push for the plebiscite, but not the governor of Guam, because he is supposed to be simply supporting the Organic Act. He took an oath to do it. Now, if he wants to go with the plebiscite, if he wants to go with medical marijuana, he should step down, resign his position as the governor, and he can march around with a sign and support anything he wants to support. But as the governor of Guam, he can't do it. And as senators of this legislature, I respectfully suggest you simply can't do it. You're wasting your time. You're wasting the government's money. So why do it? I mean, can somebody, and I'm not here to quiz you, and you're not here to answer my questions. I understand that. This is appearing in court before a judge. But can somebody explain to me how this bill is not inconsistent with the laws of the United States applicable to Guam? And if it is, why are we here and what do we do? Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me?
Thank you very much, Attorney Trapp. I hope you can remain there just in case there's any questions by members of the panel. Okay. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Rocky Blas. And let me tell you something about marijuana, because back in the early 60s, the military is the one who introduced marijuana to Guam, because when they were fighting in Vietnam, one of my friends came to Guam with a duffel bag of marijuana. And he said, Rocky, try this. I said, what is this kind of grass that you brought to Guam? He said, this is marijuana. In Vietnam, we smoke a lot of this stuff. And he said to me, take some of this and plant it in your ranch. I said, wow. So I went and planted in our ranch, and a lot of marijuana grew. And we started smoking it, and it was nothing wrong with marijuana. Marijuana is a nature's product. And even my mother, she takes the marijuana and boils it, and I always ask, how do you feel? He says, Rocky, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go eat, then when after eat, I'm gonna go to sleep. In the Pacific Islands, there's a lot of marijuana growing naturally. In America, when I was in the States, a lot of people are growing their marijuana in their house because a lot of their house has a basement. And they grow the marijuana in the basement because it's illegal for them. But that's why they invented that meter, because when they know that you're using your power 24 hours, because the marijuana in the basement has to be lighted up. And that's why they invented that meter, so if the police say that, oh, this person is using their power 24 hours, so they come and they get some kind of search warrant to go and investigate their house, and when they find the marijuana, they get arrested. But when I was in Kentucky, me and my friends found a lot of marijuana, and we reported to the police, and when the police came, he said, just stay there and show us where the marijuana is. When the police came and they saw a lot of marijuana in this land, they told me, don't worry about it, because this marijuana belongs to the Indians and we cannot do nothing about it. And you know, marijuana is not a bad product. That's why when you're cancer, the doctor always recommend the marijuana to you, because when they inject that medication is so heavy that they will make you eat. So they want you to smoke marijuana because marijuana makes you hungry, then you can eat. And in Hawaii, a lot of people that are cancer, they offer them marijuana, and they go out and buy the marijuana for $10 a bag. A lot of people are smoking marijuana in Hawaii, even in California, in the U.S. And to me, marijuana is not a bad product. Look at all these bad products that's coming from the United States to Guam. The beer is not a good product. In the Micronesian Islands, a lot of people smoke marijuana. When they come to Guam and they drink beer, they end up killing themselves because they get drunk, and that's messed up. Marijuana will make them relax because that's a good product for our body. That's why I recommend to legalize marijuana for the people that are being treated for cancer, because if you legalize marijuana, we can plant it and we can have it in our house. It's just like a regular products, you know. We plant a lot of products that we eat, and marijuana will be not a problem to the people. Look at all these bad drugs that are coming to Guam, being arrested. All this crack, all this medicine. Those are all bad products. Do you ever hear the FBI arresting those people that are making these bad drugs in America? Never. Those are the chemist people that are making this, and that's how the U.S. create jobs, because when you eat those bad drugs and they get arrested, and that's how the police got their job, because if you don't arrest anybody, you won't be working. That's why they create all these bad drugs that are made in America, and they're shipping it all over the world. And that's a bad product. Marijuana would be the best product for us, because beer is not good, alcohol is not good. They're going to make you drunk, and you end up getting messed up, and you end up fighting with people. You end up crashing on the road. Marijuana won't make you do that. That's why I always recommend marijuana, because it is a good nature's product. And to me, all this other bad product is not good. Look at all these drugs that are coming into Guam. Back in the late 60s, a lot of heroin came to Guam, and boy, let me tell you, a lot of ice were coming to Guam, and a lot of people are stealing, a lot of people are killing people. I remember when they were under heroin and they're addicted, they always kill other people because they're so messed up, and they have no guts of relaxing. But if you smoke marijuana, it will make you relax. Those other drugs like ice makes you hyper, and that's not a good drug. And if you don't want to legalize marijuana, why don't you create a law to ban all these bad products coming to Guam, because it's killing a lot of people, and that's not good for our island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Blas, for your testimony this afternoon. Mr. Lacan.
Today, Senator Ada, Senator Castro, Senator Nelson, Senator Ogden, Vice Speaker Guåhan, and Senator San Agustin. I'd like to thank you for inviting grassroots to continue to be part of the conversation as we discuss the option to reform our cannabis law from Guam. I came in initially today to rebut some of the information that was put out by the Guam Visitors Bureau. We would like to believe that Guam is a family-friendly destination, and we want to continue to promote that, but unfortunately the reality is not. And I have a photo slideshow. We can take a look. always been to speak about the issues in an open manner and open forum. Are there issues with cannabis? There absolutely are. Most of those issues, what we've been trying to say, is through the illicit consumption of it. And that is why we promote the reform of cannabis law. Now, we want to talk about Guam being a family-friendly destination, and so as I was deciding what I was going to talk about today, I thought I'd take a drive through the heart of our tourist destination and take some photos of our very family-friendly destination. This includes many photos of strip bars, alcohol establishments, questionable massage parlors, pachinko, and gaming rooms. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to any of those things, but to say that we're a family-friendly orientation when a simple cab ride from the airport to your nearest hotel will show you that there are other different activities of the adult entertainment that we do allow here on Guam. And if it's okay, then surely we could consider to continue to have open discussions about adult legalization, the adult legalization of cannabis. We have beautiful pictures of cocktails on the beach, promoting our hotels, and I don't see anybody that's opposed to cannabis standing up, leading the fight to prohibit alcohol. And the fact is, if you study the prohibition of alcohol, it didn't work. It led to higher consumption, it led to violence, crime, and all of the sorts, because a lot of that usage, a lot of the problems are because it's consumed illicitly in back corners, shady drug deals, and that type of thing. And we want to address all the issues, such as public consumption. One of the concerns that the Guam Visitors Bureau brought up was that they were concerned that there would be smoking in the hotels and that there would be public consumption. If they open the bill, the governor's bill strictly bans, prohibits public consumption. And what we offered as a solution would be a sort of on-premise consumption license where you could only consume on-premise to people who are licensed to have it. Again, the point is, the fact of the matter is that we have an 18.3% consumption on Guam. Making it regulated does not promote it. It puts people in, these people that are open to consuming it, to keep them out of harm's way. There are, again, I'd like to make the distinction, which is very important to me, that the definition of medical is a legal definition that was brought forth by this by the 33rd Guam Legislature. It is not a generic term. Something is not medical and something is not recreational. There is no use of the word recreational in the bill. So if we're trying to establish what medical is a set of conditions, which does not include diabetes, it does not include arthritis, or many of the conditions that was clearly discussed earlier. That is not medical use according to our current law. It's not a general term. Okay, yes, I'm for medical. Okay, I'm not for recreational. That's not how it works within the law. There are many things that are not covered under the medical program, such as stress, diabetes, anxiety, chronic depression, bipolar disorder, and many of asthma. Cannabis is also shown to benefit patients with asthma. None of these are covered under the medical law unless you can find a doctor who will write a written certification for you. That's important to say because there's going to be a lot of gray area patients who are looking to gain access, and if they are not given access, they're going to do it illicitly. And that again is what we are continuing to try to discourage, to take the cannabis off the street. There are still 0 deaths due to lethal overdose from cannabis, and as we've seen again this past a little over a month ago, our problem is starting to escalate in the prescription drug area. I also don't see, I don't know what those numbers look like locally, and I don't know what the forward movement will be. But we do have a serious prescription drug problem, and this is the drug problem that's affecting our young adults in the 20 to 30 bracket, 20 to 35. this is what they're turning to. And when they can no longer get their hands on prescription medications, they turn to harder substances. And marijuana usage may be a part of it, but the point again is that if we regulate the usage, you stay away. The gateway is your pusher. It's not the drug. And this has been stated by the federal government themselves. They admit that it is a fallacy that cannabis is a gateway drug. It is not. The pushers are the gateway to harder substances. When you regulate alcohol, that doesn't gain you access to harder drugs because you go to the bar and you have access to whatever they're selling. Now, if we just look at that and make logical sense of it, it makes a lot of sense. Prohibition does not work. Are we able to view the photos? Oh, it's not coming through? Okay, well, the point was that we could print out, or I can email. But I lost count at about 12. These were not family-friendly establishments. Again, I am for small businesses and opportunities, but these would not be in business if people were not going to them. And I'm not quite sure what the point of saying that we don't want cannabis because we are a family-friendly destination while completely turning a blind eye towards what's actually going on in the heart of Tumon. I'm open to hear logical discussion, to see data, to look at the numbers. Those are things that we want, to address concerns. If public consumption is a concern, how can we address those things? If smoking in the hotels is a concern, by all means, let hotels allow or not allow what they want to be done in their hotel. But to completely take a position of being against it because it's not family friendly, I don't think does the due diligence that we should as we consider the merits of this bill. I also did want to address some of the concerns hearing Mr. Palacios today. Some of his concerns is that they are not going to be moving forward, which I think is wise. I don't think we're ready for a vote. I think we should consider also what's going on within the federal landscape. But other than Attorney Sessions, what's happening is there have been many bills introduced into Congress. Guam is named on each and every single one of them as protecting whatever programs we have in existence for medical, or if we do pass a legalization. Guam is specifically named as well as U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. There is a cannabis caucus, and every bill that's come out is looking at rescheduling or descheduling it, and this has been prompted because of Attorney Sessions' strict stance on cannabis. The states are coming forward, and granted, understand that we're not a state and we don't have a constitution. We have the Organic Act and all that. But if Congress is including Guam in every law or bill that they're proposing to become law, I don't know what kind of legal quandary that becomes, because that would become law of the land if they should pass. That's, I guess, further discussion. I'm not a legal expert by any means. Maybe Vice Speaker Terlahi may have some insight into that. But I just wanted to bring that up because I am not sure how many bills have now been introduced, but the states are pushing back because they want to protect their economy and they want to protect their people. And that is what I'm hoping that our governor and our legislators will consider as well. There were a few things that were said in the media. I think I addressed some of those. Mr. Maeda is here. I believe he may be testifying, if not orally, then he submitted written testimony. But according to him and Mr. Cecil from the JMMA, they estimate about 250,000 more Japanese tourists could possibly be visiting Guam if legalized cannabis was available here. And the one thing that I haven't really addressed is really the economy. Social ills come about due to poverty. When people are financially secure, there is less crime, there's less violence. When people don't have money, they turn to self-medicating, stealing, and violence. Well, this is not the case for all. This is the case for many. If we look at our median income, it's roughly over $30,000, and a lot of that is greatly padded by the amount government workers get paid. People who work for the government get paid very well compared to the private sector. Your average worker in the private sector doesn't make a whole lot of money. And while much time has been spent debating the merits of legislative and administrative salaries being compared to stateside salaries, they're not really compared to typical local salaries. And so there are not a whole lot of opportunities for average local citizens trying to make ends meet. And we think that the cannabis industry, as it is growing, if it is done well, if it's regulated, can provide many opportunities for many people, and it pays very well. And this is money that can be generated from tourism, mainly from tourism. But if our own Visitors Bureau cannot do the due diligence to study the biology and the chemistry and the legal aspects of it, I'd like to see a report and how they came to their conclusion, because from what I've learned in the past 3 years, as we've been promoting the use of medical cannabis, is that a lot of opinions are set at a table, and not a lot of them are backed by science or data. It is somebody's college experience that is framing how they view cannabis, and that is not the market today. Somebody's experience after the war, and as we've gone and talked to people, that's what's framing their experience with cannabis. Now, if you go and visit a legalized market, it's quite, you can barely even know it's there. I went to the state of Washington, and we asked the driver, well, driver, do you know how to go to a legal cannabis store? We don't even know what to call it. They're like, we have no idea, I don't know where to go. And I'm a tourist, I'm in the state of Washington, I'm in Seattle. There's this seems to be an impression that if cannabis becomes legalized, that, you know, there are going to be marijuana leaves hanging off of every hotel, which is not the case. And I think before we make any decisions, we should continue to discuss what our options are and view what a legitimate legalized market looks like, without emotion, just to look at some of the facts and look at the data. Colorado's tourism, I don't have the number off the top of my head, increased a lot. And approximately 20% of that tourism market was cannabis related, whether it was through just consumption, cannabis business, cannabis conference, but it was cannabis related. And so the economy really, again, is not something that I've discussed in depth with regards to our support for cannabis reform. But I just kind of wanted to touch on that today. Again, we promote education, and all we are asking is to have conversations based on education and less of it based on an emotion, because it can be emotional and it can be very polarizing, and sometimes that prevents us from looking at things in a subjective way. That's it. And I'll go ahead and submit the rest of our testimony. What we didn't say today, I'll go ahead and submit it. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maga'Låhen, for your testimony this afternoon. Sir? Please identify yourself and record.
Hello, good afternoon, Senators. My name is Marcus Cepeda. I'm a small business owner. 2 months ago, I went to Public Health and Tax and Revenue to get a license. We were looking at getting a Type 2 permit, 5,000 square foot facility for cultivation, and then eventually the dispensary and possibly other areas. And I spent about 7 weeks preparing a package that the government requested stakeholders to prepare. And then right when we were ready to register our corporation, there was a form stating that from attorneys in the judicial system that the government needed more time, that we weren't prepared, we're not going to be issuing any permits. So I was very disappointed because there was a lot of stakeholders in the company that we were ready to do this business. So we kind of like put everything on a box and put it to the side, and here I am today to talk about the recreational side of it, because that's something that we're also interested in. I submitted my resume, my licenses, my background. I came here as an assistant food and beverage director from California, which has been legalized cannabis for medical purposes for a long time. I worked in the food and beverage industry for about 30 years as a manager, not cooking at home or bussing tables. Actually management for corporate family-style restaurants. That's my background. Came here as working for PIC, then Outrigger. I was an instructor for UOG, GCC, and now I have my own business 7 years now. I get a license for everything I do. I have a bed and breakfast in Barragata Heights. I rent cars. I'm an Airbnb host. I pay my taxes. I do vocational training. I was the one that submitted the proposal for Serve Save Alcohol 7 years ago for late Senator Maga'Låhen. So I'm involved with the small business community. I've opened a lot of restaurants down in Tumon area. And so I know the environment down in Tumon, also working as a salary man. And the reason I'm here is I'm supporting the cannabis bill, the recreational, because I see as a business owner, as a small business owner, and as a salary man working in the hotels, I see the potential. Now, yes, there are challenges. There are always going to be challenges, just like the gentleman here was talking about. Well, it's against federal government, federal law. You can go to prison, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, well, 42 states legalize medical marijuana. They're not in prison. 7 states legalize recreational marijuana. They're not in prison. There's congressional support, senators, congresspeople, supporting the cannabis bill with a new administration, the Trump administration. So are we going to prison because we are legalizing marijuana? I don't think so. We're not the front runner. We're not the ones that we're the first ones to do this, okay? We're following suit, okay? There's a lot of intelligent people in this room that are doing this and that are moving forward. And frankly, we need the revenue. That's the way I look at it. I'm a businessman. The government is a business entity of Guam. And how can we make money doing this? Well, of course, there's fees for getting licenses and permits, and that's for the stakeholders that are cultivating. They're having the dispensaries, they're having the manufacturing, they're setting up retail shops. And then there's the other side of it, which I have in my agenda, which is going to bring tourism in. My figures were 200,000. Maybe next to me was 250,000. And this figure came from professional financial people that know the industry. 200,000 additional tourists come into Guam for recreational marijuana. That's a substantial amount of increase in tourism. I don't even know if we have enough rooms to facilitate. Last I heard there was 5,000 rooms. Now, that's not. It's also going to impact the small business people, the markets, the mom and pop markets in the villages. They're selling ice, they're selling beverages, water, snacks, restaurants. A lot of restaurants. I'm in the restaurant business, and I know a lot of restaurant owners. I've opened up 7 restaurants here in Guam, 2 of my own. And business goes up and down. And I tell you, the military doesn't support the food and beverage business. It's a weekend warrior type business. You have tourism, which they pay for their meals before they even come to Guam. They pay for the water before they even come to Guam. So how are we going to help our community with increasing revenue? Yeah, tourism is great, but we need an additional market, in my view, in my opinion. Yes, image problems. Definitely, I agree that could be a problem, because there are that particular person that's going to smoke cannabis in their home privately, and there are the others. They're going to be downtown smoking a cannabis cigarette in front of a hotel or in front of a place where you may have families walking by with children. So my proposal is have cafes, smoke cafes, just like Colorado's proposing to do. Have smoke parks where we have a lot of parks in Guam that could use revenue, that could use the extra income. So, such an example of Tingisan Park over with a power plant, Tumon area, 2 Lovers Point, down at the bottom of the hill is a very nice beach down there. A place like that let's say that the mayor of the village can manage. They could put up a gate, a fencing, charge $2-3 to get in, perhaps locals, no charge. So that would be a place for the tourists to go and park their car, enjoy the beach, take a cooler, and then you can also sell permits for vendors to come in and sell food and beverage. And that could be up to the city mayor to manage that program. Just like when I worked for Payless, I was a store manager at Oka Payless, working with Kathy Calvo for the Kick the Fat at that time. We did an incentive for all the village mayors, because my concern was, why do all the villages have graffiti on the walls and there's no toilet paper in the bathrooms? You know, I mean, that's ridiculous. This is a tourist destination. Our tourists drive around the island. This is like 5 years ago. So there was an incentive for the village mayors to beautify their villages and maintain their villages. Now you drive around the villages and they're manicured. The bathrooms are great. I mean, I'm very impressed. And it's not because perhaps that was the reason. My point is that if we go into this program organized with conditions, just like what you were saying, have conditions to this law to where we're not going to take away the image of being family friendly or being like on the PDN, pot hearing. You know, that was like pot hearing, so all the potheads are going to go to the hearing. You know, I think if it's treated more like a business and prepare for it, I think we can have a great business. The government can have a great business, because not only are we going to pay for $15,000 a total, I believe, was for 2 licenses, a permit, and $1,000 for the responsible party. And our estimates were we need 500 pounds of cannabis per month. So that's 10 Type 2 permits to facilitate the demand for cannabis. So that's kind of what I'm seeing and what I wanted to share with senators and the community. And how would this impact our youth? Well, you know, there's a lot of talk about our youth. Okay, there was a survey that high school kids made. I did a survey. Well, what does that have to do with anything? They're like 15 to 17 years old. The cannabis is for 21 and older. Just like when you want to drink alcohol, you have to be 21. When you want to smoke a cigarette, you have to be 21. So perhaps we need to do a survey that's going to be for 21 and older people to really get a good perspective of what the community wants. Because I believe several years ago, I thought the PDN did a survey, and then there was like a large majority of the people, I don't want to quote numbers, but I know it was very positive, and that's when the medical marijuana was legalized. So yes, it has to be enforced, and perhaps some of the revenue that comes from cannabis can help programs with youth, just like alcoholism. You know, it's an addiction. Well, yeah, everybody gets addicted, but not everybody gets addicted. That's why we have a bill. So we're serving alcohol responsibly, because 7 or 10 years ago when I came to the island, I was at a bar. My 105-pound girlfriend was all practically falling off the bar stool. I went to the bathroom. She served a drink. I asked the bartender, why did you serve her a drink? She don't want it. You know, she's drunk. Oh, I'm buying her one. And that's when I went to the senator and said, hey, you know, this is public safety. So just like cannabis needs to be looked at like another choice that an adult has to make to either purchase a cannabis cigarette or a Jack and Coke or a pack of cigarettes. And law enforcement needs to enforce it. But when we talk about enforcement, you know, it's my understanding that an open can, I'm not sure about the terminology for this, but you're not allowed to drink beverages, alcohol on the beach. You go down to the Fujita Beach, there's people drinking, there's set up tents, they got coolers. Open container law, that's what it is. You go, I'm a member of the Westland Hotel, and when there's military presence there's alcohol all over the beach. Glass bottles, Jack bottles, they're throwing cans out in the water. No one's doing anything about it. So we need to, my opinion, it needs to be enforced. I know that there's patrols out there now on bicycles and little ATVs and all of that. So okay, enforce the law. I mean, if it's 21, it's 21. You know, I don't want to get off the subject, but just kind of like the garbage dumping. You know, if there's a way to call enforcement and report garbage dumping, you know, perhaps we can get rid of all that garbage dumping. I agree with Israel that they closed off
that park there because they're the beach area because of all the trash. Tin Decent's the same way. Off to the right, that place, when I camped down there, I picked up 10 large garbage bags of trash just for that one night to build my fire. And, you know, perhaps that revenue can go into more enforcement for public health, for the police, for these different departments that enforce the law, that enforce the code and conditions. Will crime increase? Well, it's just like anything else. I mean, I don't smoke cannabis recreational. I did it when I was in high school, I did. And I also drank when I was in high school. Drinking age was 18, I was 16, 17 years old. I can tell you, I never had a problem driving or being in control when I smoked cannabis. But when alcohol, it was a problem. So I don't think, you know, it's fair to say, oh, you know, we're going to have all these problems and people are going to be robbing homes and this and that. I don't think that's, first of all, there's really no evidence of that. So for anyone to come in and say, well, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to, you know, provide the evidence. I can give you evidence of everything I'm telling you here. I mean, Facebook provides a lot of evidence about what the federal government is doing about cannabis. And I can tell you, in my opinion, the federal government is not very concerned about cannabis right now. They got more problems with Russia, with China, with North Korea, and so on. And there is support in our government with the 42 states that have already legalized medical marijuana and the 7 states that have already legalized recreational marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sabino, for your testimony this afternoon. Ma'am? Mr. Maida? Mr. Maida, can you please turn on the mic?
Okay. I'm a founder of Japan Medical Marijuana Association. And I came here 2 years ago when Guam passed the medical marijuana law. And we have been expecting it is implemented here. And if we can do something, I would like to support the position. Our position is that legalization of recreational marijuana is of some help for the implementation of the medical law. It will be okay. And I think the main concern of the people and the government regarding the legalization of recreational use is that the number of the tourists from Japan may decrease if Guam declares the legalization of recreational marijuana. But I think it is groundless that the number of the ordinary tourists to Guam decreases because we don't know. I myself didn't know that 15–17% of the nation, the residents, smoke already. I didn't know, and because there is no actual travels among the people, so we have no bad image about the percentage of high percentage of the residents smoking for recreational purpose. So, for take instance for Hawaii, we understand that they legalize medical and for the recreational, they criminalized, and many people go there, but with the families too, with young children, they visit Hawaii, but they have no access, they have no information, no interest from the very beginning, from the visit of to Hawaii. So there is no voice, there is no antipathy towards Hawaii because they criminalize and legalize medical marijuana. I have to tell you about the general impression, general idea of the Japanese about the marijuana.
we have had a long history of planting, growing for agricultural and religious purposes, but for nearly 1,000 years or more. But when we were defeated by the Second World War, GHQ, General Headquarters of Occupation, came to Japan and banned the use of marijuana, telling that it's harmful, terrible, and this and that. And it was forced without reasonable reasons. So almost all the reasons the Japanese government telling is groundless and no reasons. And but Japanese government is always following the policy of the United States, and the United States has a very strict laws, especially since the 1970s, substance control law, and we had followed, and we had the same feeling towards marijuana. But very recently, because of the change of the tide of the in the United States, the Japanese has been changing their own idea. This is about the Japan Times, and this here 1 month's battle to use medical pot. He was a patient of liver cancer, 4B, stage 4B, and he was sentenced, you will die in 6 months, and by the doctor, and he was arrested because of the position of 2-3 grams in his pocket, and he drove 3 plants, not much this size, but he was arrested and he was sent to the court, which supported them. The news was spread, and we could successfully make a TV program, and it was broadcast, and at least 15 million watchers watched, and they had sympathy and understanding about the medical marijuana. But yet we have some fear about the marijuana, because we were educated, trained, and brainwashed by, like that for nearly 1 century. So it is not easy to change. But look at this newspaper. Here it is written, marijuana, okay, in the United States is spreading. This is about the recreational use, not only medical, but usually the Japanese media has been, reporting that the marijuana is terrible, bad, only. But this newspaper copy 6 million. This is one of the largest newspapers in Japan, 6 million every day. Say only about the facts and what's going on about the revenues and the crime rates coming down, and revenues and traffic accidents, violence, and divorce, and decreasing. It's the fact. So they report now the fact. I think the people's idea will be changed gradually. So to the legalization of recreational use in Guam, they will have the similar. Or maybe they are not interested in the recreational, but our population is 125 million in total, and 1% is more than 1 million. And we have a lot of patients incurable and debilitating diseases. They are looking for the marijuana because the medicines prescribed by the hospital and doctors even make their diseases worse, and they know, they are coming to know, and it's expensive, and the budget is, going up and down, up and up. So many patients they want to come to Guam, and the merit is that Guam is very near, only 3 hours from any point of Japan, from Hokkaido to Okinawa, from to Guam takes only 3 hours. This is a very biggest merit for us, because to Hawaii or San Francisco it takes 10 hours. It makes even the healthy people worse, sick. So and warm, and the people are aware that tourism is very important for the Guam people. So they know how to accept, welcome the Japanese patients. And we have a lot of inquiries and pushes for the medical, treatment in Guam by a lot of hopeless patients. So I want to take them here, if possible, but the Japanese law prohibits the use if not legalized perfectly. So there is an article of Guam the patient should be a Guam resident. If it is written in the law, we cannot come. So please eliminate the phrase, and instead I want you to say that Guam accepts patients regardless of their nationalities on the condition that they have a recommendation from a physician in Guam during their stay. This makes no problem, I think. So if so, then the Japanese are allowed legally to come here and have some medical treatment. Then the doctors also, physicians also come to write research papers, and then that way the patients will increase, and I'm afraid if you can accommodate these patients here, because too many people are sick in Japan. You cannot imagine, very many, and they want to have a relaxed, happy and life here. So we can advertise this situation very effectively through the media, because we have a very good channel for the big, like NHK, like BBC or CNN. The first media was NHK 2 years ago, when I talked to them that we may be able to, that the patients may be able to come here. They were very ready, and the plan was almost, coming through. But for 2 years, there is no patients coming, not allowed. So even though legalized for regulation or not, it's not important for the patients who come, and for the tourists it will not affect nothing. Like Hawaii, the marriage couple go there, but if they are forced to smoke or pushed to smoke, then maybe a problem. But I don't believe that Guam people will do the same that way for making money. No. And what we can do is to support you in Japan, and especially to give correct information about medical marijuana and here, because too many people expect miracle by the medical marijuana. I don't think it's true. Yeah, that's almost all what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Maeda. Thank you very much for your testimony this afternoon. Ma'am? You're going to testify?
Yes.
Just identify yourself for the record. Please.
Hi, I'm Gemma Dave together with Sang Hee Hong. I hope the older individuals will not get mad with my opinion. It's just an opinion. Okay, when I was in high school, I'm holding marijuana, but given by my best friend. It's upon each individual who wants to use it. It's not, we call it environmental effect. If you go with it and you overdose with it, of course you're going to go somewhere else. But if you know how to maintain it, how to use it properly, as we say, the medical thing, because my mom has depression and it helps her to sleep. When I was in the Philippines, year 2014, so it helped her much through sleeping. So it's not that I really wanted with a recreational thing. I wanted in a medical, because that's the bill, right? The medical bill for the marijuana. So also, there was the businessman who said he did everything already, prepared everything already, which we did also on our part. I went to public health, I went to revenue tax. I won't mention the names whom I've talked to, but regards to public health, they said it's there's really a procedure if ever it will be enacted. Each who has the license, it's just a certain amount that you guys can carry on your vehicles. It's not much as, because there will be a law, there will be policies, and there will be inclusions, kind of like that. So those who are opposing, I mean, in my own opinion, we should listen to all opinions of the others, because in my part, it helped for my mother. And as I said, it's the individual who really wants to use it. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dane. Thank you for your testimony this afternoon. Sir, you can identify yourself, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Vic Perez, and I'm representing myself as an individual citizen. I'm not really opposed strongly, nor am I for strongly the use of recreational marijuana. Some of the comments I have are really reflections of how to think about this social policy issue. I would simply background the comments by bringing us back to the basics, that Guam is an island. It's an American possession. It's a colonial possession of the United States. And the policy of the administering power of the American bicameral national legislature has been wanting at many levels. I believe the presumption and the root cause behind this bill that is not stated in the media, perhaps in talk radio, is the fact that Guam has changed over time. The total amounts of monies owed Guam by the United States Congress have not been received. Over $1 billion, or roughly $1 billion. That's larger than the entire annual budget of the Guam legislature. So over time, as things have changed, as Guam has become an organized American military, national security services, and political colony of the United States, new problems have developed. And I see this bill as a manifestation of economic pressures associated with the administering power not fulfilling its moral obligation to fund fully the various outcomes that have resulted from the selective application applications of the United States Constitution. You know, there is provisions that apply to Guam. And I think that, having said that, the media is responsible for a lot of it. I think they continually bash the government of Guam. The legislature is made to be the media whipping dog in many ways. There's not enough coverage of the hard work that insular lawmakers conduct every day. And the island of Guam doesn't have much control over what the U.S. Congress is going to do or not going to do in terms of reimbursing the amounts of money owed the island. So fundamentally, it is a issue, from one perspective, of the unfulfillment of the United States Congress not properly and effectively managing its colonial outpost, that of the island of Guam. And so that would be my preface behind the comments. And I think, too, the framing of the issue, both in the media and with people who hold very strong opinions about it, about this particular issue, are moral-based. It's a selectivity of morality, and somehow this notion of whether one smokes illegal drugs or not is a moral issue, and therefore one is either bad or good. There seems to be this underwriting current of morality involved in the discussion that's not brought up explicitly, and I just want to point that out because the same issue of morality can be juxtaposed against the issue of drinking. If one drinks alcohol, is one a bad person? If one doesn't drink alcohol, is one a good person? And to what extent is one a bad person, and how bad are they if they drink? And are all people who drink alcohol alcoholics? Apply that notion to the notion of songi. You know, people want to have the right to smoke songi. Does that make them a bad person? And to what extent are they bad based on how much they smoke or they don't smoke? You know, so I think the opportunity to share some thoughts is an expression, an enactment to continue to examine the discussion or the issue at hand of recreational marijuana, because unless, senators, you've seen it, I've never seen any kind of news clip from CNN or ABC News or Fox News or any other major news network that claims that there was a major accident or a major attack based on a group of people smoking songi and they went and they did something crazy. I don't recall seeing that in any kind of news cycle. And so I would just like to present the idea of morality, because this is a moral issue at some level, because people, when they testify, there's a notion of good or bad, and I would argue that that can be applied in any case. Also, this idea of marketing, the Guam Visitors Bureau has made public pronouncements that Guam is a family-friendly place. I would argue that's true. It always has been before the United States was here, probably. I mean, a small island. But that this notion that it's bad for marketing because it may blemish or it may produce reputational risk for the folks who are in charge of the Guam Visitors Bureau. I would say that is a serious argument. I would also say it is not necessarily compelling, nor is their argument complete. And I say that because Guam is not exclusively a family-friendly tourist destination. People, from the U.S. come here who are non-military. People from Europe, from Russia, they're not necessarily coming here for a family vacation. So this notion, this presupposition that somehow it's going to be bad by assigning the possibility of expanding the market signature and the branding signature of the Guam Visitors Bureau, I would argue is not compelling, and therefore should be further discussed, because if it was compelling, the tax structures, the provisions, and the way money is collected and dispersed would arguably be a lot more, and the island of Guam wouldn't be in a position of being, in such a fiscal or budgetary constrained environment. And so I think GDB's claim is serious. I don't think it's compelling enough. And I do think that to the extent that the provisions in this kind of bill are examined that allow for matters of location, of regulation, of how, when, why, where are addressed, then this would be an example of public policy effectiveness. Unlike what the Guam media does, the Guam legislators, our legislature, I argue the opposite. I think the Guam are hardworking, and I think they're very intelligent, and I think the media places a deaf ear on how they provide coverage towards the Guam legislature. And with regards to the issue of policing, I think it's a serious argument. People claim that GPD is going to need more money to have more officers to engage in specific law enforcement activities. That's serious. However, it's not compelling, I would argue, because it is not compelling because the assumption is additional revenue will not come in that will be adequate to cover the additional GPD resources required for the additional and specific mission sets necessary for domestic public safety officers to provide the general public. And so I think the argument is not complete. I think it's serious, I don't think it's complete, and I think that more discussion could be had on the issue of policing. There's also an assumption that's not stated, and that is that somehow with marijuana everything's going to be bad. We automatically default to this worst case assumption, people's worst fears, people's worst feelings and presuppositions about it. While I don't have a strong opinion about this particular issue, I do think that some of the profoundly negative, emotive testimonials that have been made are not necessarily justifiable. Perhaps partially justifiable, but not wholly justifiable. So I think that having this opportunity to share these thoughts contribute to how to perhaps think about the bill a little bit more in a wider scope. I would also say that, and I would like to register my rebuttal to comments made regarding this notion of control based on the U.S. Congress's unilateral enactment of the 1950 Organic Act and its subsequent amendments, that somehow an elected governor of Guam and those who are elected into the insular territorial unicameral legislature must somehow abide in a straight and narrow, compartmentalized view of what should or should not be done. I mean, the highest of American ideals is found on the most basic of American ideals, which is consent of the people. And so while the Organic Act is in place with its amendments, I see no reason why this bill should not be continually reviewed and considered. And if it passes, I think that it's a great opportunity to test once again the American colonial and the United States federal relationship. Because if people consent to it, if you have 9,000 miles away a body that does not have that does not give a complete voted voice for the Chamorro people and the people of Guam in the national legislature in either chamber, it's a good way to test the relationship, because it's a relationship that's not optimal. I would argue it's suboptimal. And I would say the issue of data, people tend to use data to justify or push an argument. They tend to use data to further oppose others' arguments, or the lack of data somehow as a way to view this issue of medical marijuana as either good or bad. One aspect of the data debate is that little, if anything, is reported, especially by the Guam media, on the quality of data, the scope, of how data is collected, how it is produced, and how it is used to generate an outcome, as well as the ideological factors behind how data is used to manipulate and to, in some instances, deceive. So while people may say that, well, there's no data here, well, there's data here, and I think the next subsequent question is, well, what is the data? What kind of test was done? What kind of study was done? And how is the data used? What is the quality of the data? How is it collected? Is it time-sensitive data? Does it lose value over the time spectrum, over the factor of time? So I think that issues of data are serious. They're not necessarily compelling. I think that being that we're an American colony, when we reference American states, state of Washington, state of Colorado, state of Oregon, those could be possible comparative data sets to use to see what might be available or unavailable for policing or for crime. And when people talk about crime, what do they mean? Is it white collar? Is it physical harm? What kind of crime are we talking about? So I do sense that our island community is conservative socially, and that's fine. I also sense that hearings like this, legislatures are carrying out their full-time work responsibilities, and they have these opportunities to speak, I think is really important. So I guess I'll just close by saying, moving forward, I think the issue can be framed, and it's all about framing, in my opinion, because I think I hold the Guam media to the fire on it, on how they report not only on Guam lawmakers, but on the issue that they claim that there's not enough data or that it's somehow morally wrong. I would argue, yes, those are serious considerations, but again, they're incomplete, and the consequence of how the issue is framed in the media is that the other aspects and elements of the debate are not put forth in print, digital print. And I think that the most important aspect of this issue is really not medical marijuana. It is the poor management that the United States Congress has produced over decades towards its American insular colony in the Western Pacific, west of the international date line, north of the equator, west of the Hawaiian Islands, and east of the Philippine Islands. That is priceless in terms of its use and instrumentalization towards the benefit of the national security services and the Pentagon in all domains. So I think that if the Congress had fulfilled its moral responsibility to fully pay its bill to the island of Guam, that perhaps this idea of marijuana and medical marijuana, and in this case recreational marijuana, would not be up for debate today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perez, for your testimony this afternoon. Mr. Press?
Good afternoon, Senators.
Good afternoon.
Sorry for all the pacing around, but I can't sit in these metal chairs for very long. Senators and citizens, from comments made at the last hearing and the allowed only negative opinions from individuals posted in the press, I feel compelled to address the fundamental idea in the issue of legal adult use cannabis, in addition to addressing some points of interest in contentions in the bill itself. The DEA webpage entitled "The Dangers and Consequences of Marijuana Abuse" had to be removed by law due to false claims, such as cannabis being a gateway drug and it causing irreversible cognitive decline in adults and contributing type 2 psychosis and lung cancer. All false. They had to take it off. Illegal. Simon Sanchez's high school students recently performed a fundamentally skewed poll. If asked by an identified high school student if I support legalization of prostitution or gambling, I would say no, regardless of my opinion. Not that I equate any of the three or support prostitution or gambling. However, my point is I've witnessed persons that do use and do support the legalization of cannabis turn into reefer madness fanatics when the mere word is mentioned while a child is present in the room. The conducted Simon Sanchez High School poll is fundamentally flawed for this very reason, along with framing the question as recreational rather than responsible adult personal use.
Down to 2 senators, huh?
The PDN local poll shows 76 and 82% in favor in the last two most recent polls. A recent Gallup nationwide poll was 62% in favor. Fear of identification keeps many individuals away from expressing their true opinion or open public support on this subject. Another Post article voiced the opinions of the Guam Visitors Bureau Director, stating legal cannabis will tarnish Guam's family-friendly image and damage the tourist industry. The Guam Visitor Bureau's director must never visit Guåhan, as walking down San Batoris Lane, you can't help but notice the very numerous and very visible bars, strip clubs, massage parlors with girls on the sidewalk trying to funnel and solicit customers inside. Cannabis availability to tourists for medical or personal use will bring them in much greater droves if we keep our fees, taxes, and cannabis prices competitive with the CNMI. The reefer madness mental condition is from almost a century of government brainwashing and social conditioning efforts. The real reason for prohibition was a war on industrial hemp veiled in a public safety false flag. Twisted thoughts to influence the mindless masses for the purpose of mass hysteria and fear-mongering. Unfortunately, the efforts have been highly successful, though thoroughly fraudulent. Propaganda became intellectual dogma. Foaming at the mouth, reefer madness fanatics should seek help from the mental health community. But alas, they too are perpetuating the brainwashing and mass hysteria as it benefits their industry's monetary interests. Any scientific study claiming a correlation or causation of mental health or any brain malformation, such as enlarged pleasure zones, due to cannabis use is also fundamentally flawed because of the fact they do not take into consideration or factor in or factor out any nicotine or alcohol use or abuse. If you ask any doctor or researcher or scientist, which I have many times, they will have to admit it. It is impossible to do so. Alcohol and nicotine are everywhere and accessible to everyone, and usually the first drugs used by anyone other than sugar with any measurable consistencies, yourselves included. Admit it. Sugar also should not be overlooked, discounted, or ignored. The religious fanatic argument rebuttal is twisted religious morals are for twisted thinking persons. Cannabis use is no less moral than consuming a candy bar or sugary drink or connoisseur coffees. And cannabis is much less addictive, if at all, and much healthier as used as a preventative and therapeutic medicine and natural supplement, and can be used as a replacement to alcohol, tobacco, or illicit hard drugs, or legally overused, misused, and abused pharmaceutical drugs. Immoral people commit immoral acts. Cannabis cannot be used as a scapegoat for the behavior of immature or immoral persons. You cannot stereotype or pigeonhole who are or who are not cannabis users. There are doctors, lawyers, judges, police officers, politicians, professors, and educated professionals from all walks of life who do use cannabis. just as there are certifiable alcoholics with the same backgrounds who do not use cannabis. If anything, cannabis produces a sense of peace and well-being, and by extension, goodwill, not ill will towards others. Cannabis also produces a more cautious behavior in persons who are inclined to behave as adults, especially novice users, as in driving and checking things twice or even thrice where safety is concerned. Where cannabis is legally available and affordable, crime goes down, not up. Emphasis on the word affordable as in relationship to business fees, taxes, and what the end product price is to be. Very importantly noted here, expensive legal cannabis only straightens illegal market into crime. Some citizens are more worried about imaginators of responsible adult legal cannabis private use than radiation and cancer from cell phones or from nearby Fukushima, Japan, which are actual real dangers, but for some reason inexplicably buried and ignored. California Public Health was recently taken to court in order to release the finding of studies conducted 7 years ago and updated several times since, showing cancer caused by long-term exposure to radiation from cell phones, as reported by CBS News and Kim Commando, March 2nd, 2017. The case was Muscovich, a Berkeley professor, versus the California Department of Health. If you use a cell phone, you also should be using cannabis to help counteract the effects, or at least learn the best practices for cell phone use to incorporate. The publication also stated that children were even more at risk because of their thinner skull bones. Food for thoughts if you're looking for real dangers to be worried about. Some here, such as Grassroots Guam and others, promote the idea we should slow down this initiative to allow the implementation and success of the medical cannabis law and program. I, however, wholeheartedly and passionately disagree. This initiative should be put on fast track to rescue and strengthen the medical law, and will be the only way, other than illicit sellers and home cultivation, for a patient to have any access to the medicine. The board or commission deadline should be quickened to 6 months or less. The final medical bill with rules was drafted in less than a month. The medical community, the vast majority of doctors, all but 2, are not behind the patients in providing the required written certifications. So far, there is only one authenticated patient from a recent Freedom of Information Act request. I would venture to guess 500 would be needed to support the 3 required businesses, but again, very small cannabis sizes and unnecessarily high fees inhibit, if not cost prohibit, investment. I seriously doubt if anyone could produce enough product to pay the fees and overhead, and at what price for the medicine to the patients. However it be unintentional, Bill 343-33 and lapsed Public Law 33-220 was designed to fail, but not without my very abundant warnings. Without valid customers, no potential entrepreneur will invest in a medical-only cannabis business, and the required testing facility stalemate, $300,000 to $400,000 to stand up, is also standing in the way of any medical-only cannabis businesses. The Department of Public Health Director is discouraging patients from registering and wanting to make businesses incur $20,000 more in certifications. To mention also the bureaucratic stumbling or resistance in issuing simple occupancy license. This was prepared long before the Senator San Augustine's bill. I will include my written testimony and talking points as I presented it to Senator Rodriguez on April 7th. The problem with our current medical law and program, and some problems with this bill, and the need for a separate committee on cannabis and department to merge the 2 markets. not keep them separate as this bill outlines, and to dissect and reconstruct Public Law 33-220 issue by issue. The senator delayed the meeting for 2 months and failed to invite any other senators to the meeting, contrary to my request. Did one of you guys get an invitation from Senator Rodriguez last week? No, I didn't think so. I sent you the night before one. No delay or voter ballot is needed. We have a bill right here, though needing much modification. The patients cannot trust their doctors concerning cannabis and cannot afford for us to drag our feet any longer or wait for doctors to pull their reluctant heads out of the sand. Get busy and Godspeed should be our motto, not let's wait and see. Vermont's bill for legalization has passed in the House and is now going to the Senate. Rhode Island and Illinois is following suit, and a voter poll in Rhode Island showing 59% in favor. No ballot or voter involvement, all through the respective legislators. Vermont has enough Senate votes to pass it if it gets to the floor this year, and new leadership there is making it a priority. The Senate did not include voting or have hearings for the 2014 pay raise, as we are at least having hearings on this bill. Again, cannabis needs its own separate legislative committee and department. A comparative $1,000 business fee total is a must to stay competitive with the CNMI cannabis prices for tourism purposes. Please pay attention and take note. If asked again about reasonable fees, Ms. Pellicani, I ask, do we want the CNMI to be the preferred destination of the cannabis tourist for medical or adult use? Again, more affordable cannabis means lower crime rates. Expensive cannabis means higher crime rates and more illegal activity. Let's get all the costs down as low as possible. Senator Stevez, in my last testimony, I called for more reasonable fines for home gardening, and he suggested higher fees for just assuming illegal sales. We already have specified fines for actual illegal sales. Again, 6 plants are not enough to keep oneself in supply of cannabis from harvest to harvest. I will conclude, as I feel as the last part of President Trump's first speech to Congress, only very slightly modified, as it pertains and is germane to the lastly mentioned intention of this act. Imagine the wonders our island could know. Think of the marvels we can achieve if we simply set free our dreams of our people. Cures to illnesses that have always plagued us are not too much to hope. Guam's footprint on distant worlds are not too big a dream. Many lifted from welfare to work is not too much to expect, and jobs where islanders prosper and grows is not too much to ask. When we have all of this, we will have made Guam greater than ever before for all residents and visitors alike. This is our vision, this is our mission. But we can only get there together. We are one people with one destiny. We all bleed the same blood, we all salute the same flags, and we all are made by the same God. And when we fulfill this vision, we will celebrate glorious freedom. We will look back as when this new chapter of Guam greatness began. The time for small thinking is over. The time for trivial fights is behind us. We just need the courage to share the dreams that fill our hearts, the bravery to expect hopes that stir our souls, and the confidence to turn those hopes and dreams into action. From now on, Guam will be empowered by our aspirations, not burdened by our fears, inspired by the future, not bound by the failures of the past, and guided by our vision, not blinded by our doubts. I am asking all Guam citizens and senators to embrace this renewal of the American spirit. I am asking all members of the Guam Legislature to join together in dreaming big, bold, and daring things for our island. I'm asking everyone to seize this moment. Believe in ourselves, believe in our future. and believe once more in all islanders and Americans alike, cannabis-loving taxpayers included, not excluded. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Guam and these United States.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fest, for your testimony this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I do have two additional individuals who would like to provide oral testimony. If there's anyone else in the audience who would like to join us up front, then I welcome you to the front table, please. We have Natalia Salcerulo and Belinda Simpson. Ma'am, because you've already taken a seat, if you can identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Speaker Benjamin, Cruz, senators, students, teachers, counselors, and those of you who are present at this public hearing for recreational marijuana. My name is Belinda Snyder. I am a former teacher. I have presented our written and verbal testimony opposing against the legalization of recreational marijuana for the following reasons. First of all, I do want to state for the record, data is very important when we're dealing with matters like this. And data is very important even for someone's paycheck. Numbers, okay, and the reason for those numbers. As mentioned in the Pacific Daily News, and this is new information, factual information, and the data has arisen, of course, when the students go into the counselor's office or goes to the principal's office. They annotate that information. They annotate how many students go to the office for behavioral reasons. That's data. That is very important data. As mentioned in Pacific Daily News, KUAM News, and other media resources of factual information, March 27, 2017, nearly 43% of Southern high school students have behavioral problems from smoking, skipping class, can I continue?
Yes, please.
Skipping classes, assault and battery, sexual assault, with 28 other behaviorals since August. Some of these reasons were due to illegal drugs, which caused one student to be expelled due to extremely aggressive behavior. Now, a gentleman before me mentioned that marijuana doesn't make you aggressive. It depends how much, and it also depends what's in the marijuana. Can change a person's psychological effect and behavior. Okay, due to extremely aggressive behavior. 211 incidents of the third-day suspensions, with 205 referrals to counselors, school suspensions for 10 days, and 166 cases that include possession of tobacco products, Viper, and Viper modules. These students displayed deviance, disrespectful, and insubordination. 52 cases for the use of possession of contraband and drugs, along with many other schools, such as is mentioned in the Pacific Daily News on March 27, 2017, by Heidi Eugenio. Southern High School, and I'm just going to report the behavior problems. Southern High School, they have 1,486 enrollment, 835 reported behavior problem cases, that's 56%. 638 students involved, 43%. George Washington High School, enrollment, 1,699 enrolled, 696 reported problem behavior cases, that's 41%. 619 students involved, that's 36%. Teason High School, an enrollment of 1,313 enrollment, 509 reported behavior problem cases, 39%. 509 students involved, that's 34%. Ukudu High School, 1,682 enrollment, 391 reported behavioral problem cases, that's 23%. 337 students involved, that's 20% of the students were involved. Simon Sanchez High School, enrollment, 1,899, 354 354 reported problem behavior cases, 19%. 313 students involved, 16%. JFK, John F. Kennedy High School, enrollment 1,904. 315 reported problem behavior cases, 17%. 293 students involved, that's 15%. Our middle schools are also being affected, including Benevente Middle School, FB Leon Guerrero Middle School, and Antolon Middle School for alcohol intoxication. Like the gentleman mentioned before, they start out with alcohol, then they get into marijuana, or vice versa, or sometimes they mix the drugs. Okay, from alcohol intoxication to the point of becoming unconscious, they found a student unconscious, and even to the extent of rioting with metal pipes and rocks. The moral decay of our island's next generations of leaders is beyond alarming. Legislatures of recreational marijuana will only make these issues more difficult to curb. We have a responsibility to lead by our examples. And what kind of examples are we if we to place financial gain before the greater good of the hearts and the minds of our youth? The writing is on the wall for all of us to see unless we choose to be blind. Should our government legitimate recreational marijuana by allowing this bill's passage, we can expect even more of the horrific headlines we have been subjected to in recent months involving someone's son, nephew, niece, or daughter, or neighborhood kid in general, and their substance abuse-related delusional crime sprees. While the federal government's position remains to be fully clarified, it should already be planned to us in this community how we should stand on this matter if we have real love for this island. I do not fear marijuana. I am concerned and worried for the children and our next generation on Guam. I oppose recreational marijuana just like I oppose medical marijuana. In accordance with the U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions about caucus on international narcotics control SD-226 clearly stated, and the gentleman that mentioned earlier, who are these people to say this and that? Well, these people have been there. They've seen it all as far as in their state, and he won't be a U.S. Attorney General for nothing. Okay, so, okay, let me get back. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions about caucus on international narcotics control SD-226 stated that marijuana is not the kind of thing to be legalized, not to be minimized. Cannot play with it, it's not funny, it's fact, it's real dangerous. Accidents and traffic deaths related to marijuana jumped 20%. Again, data, how did that happen? Obviously someone got in a car accident, they take their breath, they analyze their breath or maybe through their blood, and they detect that yes, this person had marijuana in their system. So it's up 20%. As the U.S. Attorney General mentioned, quote by quote in this session, 120 people per day are dying of drug overdose in the United States. How do they get that data? Well, you get it from the vital records or from the hospital, and then it goes on into the vital records and whatnot. That's how they get this data. It's not me pulling strings. It's not me just coming here and giving data. It doesn't work that way. And I know all of you that have your degrees, you know how important it is for studies, and data is very important. Okay, to be legalized, not to be minimalized, not to play with it, and it's not funny. In fact, it's real dangerous. Accidents and traffic death related to marijuana jumped 20%. Okay? As the U.S. Attorney General mentioned, quote by quote in his session, 120 people a day are dying from drug overdose in the United States. Serious brain injuries due to overdose. Emergency rooms are what great cost to our community. How many lives are disrupted? Children in broken homes due to one parent spending all their money on drug habits. murder rate in America dropped by 50% in 1980 when President Ronald Reagan just said no and started the war on crime. Federal government led the way with tough sentences, eliminating parole, targeting dangerous drugs in effective ways in which states and local governments follow. The U.S. Attorney General Sessions is worried about it and that the same mistake will happen like what happened in the 1960s and 70s. According to the new data, 4.3 million people abuse or are dependent on marijuana. Marijuana is stronger today than in the 1960s, and it does impact people adversely. American Medical Association issued a report of unequivocal about the danger and ramification on marijuana. Those in favor of recreational marijuana would say recreational marijuana is good. It can be used for the stage 4 liver cancer, colon cancer, a pain reliever, etc. Taxes from recreational marijuana can be used for our schools, our roads, crowded prisons, for the young people who are serving time at the Department of Youth Affairs. I say we need to think about the next generation, our children first. I say let's not legalize marijuana as an excuse in order to implement such dangerous drugs. In fact, Guam is much smaller than the state. The state driver accidents death related to marijuana jumped 20%. What more on Guam? If marijuana was good for cancer, then why wasn't it used for medical purposes in the past? And that will be the answer to the cure of cancer. But it didn't happen. The effect of marijuana is not limited to one's psychological, emotional, and functional day-to-day life. This is a very severe and dangerous drug that will impact many people in many ways, which can't be reversed. The problem Guam is facing now with meth, and what more if recreational marijuana or medical marijuana was adopted? We must consider the military on Guam and how marijuana would affect their families and community as well. Every year, and I ask every one of us here to think about this, every year we celebrate National Red Ribbon, which sends a message, say no to drugs, be drug-free. From us all wearing red ribbons from October 23rd to October 31st. The Red Ribbon Campaign Coalition including our local and military communities. This movement was in honor of Hiroki Kiki Kamaria, an agent with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration who was kidnapped and killed while investigating drug traffickers. Guam U.S. Attorney General Alicia Lim Tiaco mentioned, this is her, quote unquote, this is not me pulling things from the sky, mentioned in March 2017 that the only way this can become law is through the U.S. Congress due to the Organic Act of Guam. That includes medical and recreational marijuana. Judge Lemerena also commented about the effects that marijuana causes, including psychological effects, etc. Now this was said from someone who has been in the judiciary system for some time. I'm sure he knows what he's talking about. I'm sure he's seen many cases come in and out. And I'm sure he's seen many juveniles affected and homes affected as well. Therefore, this bill and its entirety, which includes medical marijuana, is inorganic because it's prohibited. Inorganic, I am a taxpayer. I can say in the future the government might be sued for even allowing such a bill. 1421M, marijuana is prohibited. I appreciate how the students of Simon Sanchez, and I brought this up in my last testimony, conducted a survey which indicated 60% of adult students do not want marijuana due to the message it's sending. A pool was conducted of 1,048 individuals older than 21 of age. About a third of them believe it sends a bad message to our youth. I too do not want recreational marijuana passed or lapsed into law like medical marijuana. It hinders one's functional, psychological, and whole aspect of the individual, their vision being blurry, feeling high speech, psychological, relaxed, violent, and temperament due to the point of harsh crimes being committed over a period of time. This drug alters one's ability to function at 100%. The incidents that occur on Guam of individuals robbing, and there's a person that testified before me saying he never heard of it, any violence going on. Well, this is one. I don't know where he's been, but this is a very important thing. The incident that occurred on Guam of individuals robbing Mr. Pareto and Jonya, a home invasion over marijuana. What brutally murdered with a baseball bat over marijuana. Citizens in Delito and Jigo who use or grow marijuana illegally. Do we want our island as an island of drug lords, drug trafficking, violence, of criminal activity? We are experiencing a problem, a very serious problem with meth, ice. So many families, friends, students, our community has been affected. And the most current reason of events from killings, the incident at the Department of Correction, people are bringing in marijuana, drugs, it's terrible. Guam Police Department, the couple that just got busted for, I believe it's ice and also marijuana, okay, and they also had guns. I humbly ask for your support to vote no to recreational and medical marijuana, for not only for the safety of all of us and our children, but also it's inorganic. Thank you for all your support. Viva Guam, viva no marijuana, viva say no to drugs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Belinda, for your testimony this afternoon.
Thank you.
Ma'am, please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Respectfully, God bless you. None of the information has any validity for this issue because we are here for a sin tax, which involves adults age 21 and up. As a graduate of Johnson & Wales University main campus in Providence, Rhode Island, nonetheless an even smaller island than here in Guam, love you guys. Only been on island since February 1st, flew here, know my place, actually flew in as an undercover with Interpol and getting ready to bust G-Spot. Nonetheless, just keep focused here. All right, so therefore, her qualitative statistics show no validity. Ignorance is a bliss, as is prohibition, which Guam has suffered of. Guam needs a revival. Guam deserves a revival. With what's going on with the President of the Philippines, it is the perfect time to instigate something that's going to make this island money. This is a cash crop, this is organic, and this is something that the island can control. Coming from Hawaii after 8 years with the Chong family, we have something called no ice in paradise. My friend was in prison with Mr. Villanueva's for 8 years in Halava prison. Former CIA official, also Hawaii Cannabis Ministry official. His name is Roger Christie. Mr. Villanueva's, such a nice man, informed Mr. Christie of so many of the problems and corruptions within the police department and certain families within the police department who are related to certain families, and if not the same families that create the ice on the island. Nonetheless, the problem. Once again, ignorance is a bliss, as is prohibition. I would like to quote Country Joe and the Fish right now from Woodstock, since she mentioned Ronald Ray guns. And I say that as war is a business. I am a death dealer, Army, past, affiliation with Guantanamo Bay. I work hand in hand with Interpol and with people within military intelligence all over the world to keep people from getting molested, to keep children from getting sold off in the human trafficking trade, to keep body organs from getting sold off in the black market. which is happening right here in Guam, one of the center forces within the Filipino black market. He is a drugstore truck driving man. He is the head of the Ku Klux Klan. When summer comes rolling around, we'll be lucky to get out of town. That is from Country Joe and the Fish, Woodstock. About, at that time, Governor Ronald Reagan's. As the future and right now handle International Food and Drug Administration President and CEO, heading preventive and integrative medicine, which is homeopathy combined with allopathy. We want to regulate all prescription drugs, herbs, and vitamins. That means making sure that everything is documented, taxed formally, and kept up to date within the supermarkets and drugstores. That means Vitamin World all the way to the farmer's market. Nobody should be buying expired drugs, and that also entitles herbs. They do it in Colorado. They do. They x-ray the drugs. I was there with the legislators. I was there with High Times Magazine. I was there with Roger Christie, with Rick Cusick. I was there with the lobbyists, right when we legalized recreational marijuana, and that tax money did good. Even better was Washington State, and excuse me, but damn right Washington State did good. Homeland Security, let's look at the homelessness problem and the prevention with needle problems. It has outwiped needle problems. You can look at the statistics, talk to Seattle, talk to Washington State, look at the city of Seattle's architectural program. Homeless have been dissolved. The rest get put into a wait list. Most of them are out-of-staters that are usually, as we say, meth heads or ice heads, who are a problem I see here on your island. That problem becomes eliminated, and if not, put into check, into a rehabilitative state once no ice in paradise takes place. You can look at the state of Hawaii, talk to my friends in Vice and in the DEA, and they will tell you the statistics of Hawaii with no ice in paradise, and my friends from the USOs that patrol the beaches to make sure the ice is eliminated. Don't let it devastate your island. Don't let it do that to you. I am from Miami, Florida. My parents live in Jacksonville. There is nothing worse than what we call Flacco. Flacco is used as well as heroin. It's an epidemic. I don't want to see it happen to your island. A guy can get popped with a kilo of cocaine and get out the next day. But how dare he have a quarter of weed? Guess what? You can get a prescription for 30 oxycodones in the state of Florida, enough to kill yourself and your friend. But how dare you get caught with 30 grams of weed? You'll do like I did, 361 days in jail. My friend Roger Cusick, High Times Magazine, and lobbyists work so hard to reform marijuana laws. The sin tax has dissolved the debt and made Colorado the wealthiest state, not only in the lower 48, but in all 50 states. Seattle made the smartest moves. Bill Gates backed it, and you should look at Seattle. The architecture is so smooth. The homeless housing program, rehabilitative, like I want to do here in Guam with the Boys Ranch that I will be purchasing as a philanthropist and fostering children. These are smart moves. These are productive moves with Department of Corrections, like my cousin did in Burbank. These are things that we want to do to help you. I did qualitative statistics at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where I went to school with Go Broncos, Peyton Manning. Doctors do hold animosity towards patients with public health care. Unfortunately, ignorance is a bliss when all people see is what they read. They need to understand the truths. That means integrative and preventive medications. That means not just the doctor, but the chiropractor and the acupuncturist and the massage therapist too. One shouldn't have an excuse to have to smoke Maga'Låhen, Aka Ganja, Aka weed, coined marijuana by the Philip Morris Company. Statistically, let's look at the sin tax, and these are facts, not myths. Statistically, let's look at the sin tax and the factors from the two original states once again. Take a look. I can give you the facts. I can follow up with you in your office, no problem. I could fly Roger in to talk to, well, you know what? Rick will fly in on High Times. Now he's working for Rolling Stone, but Rick will get on the phone. No, he's working for Oprah Winfrey, who has a whole line of marijuana, tampons, and essential oils for pregnant women. So my point is, this is a 21 and up sin tax. This is not an innocent island. Like I said, my friend was in prison with Mr. Villanueva's. I am from Miami. Let's keep it real. You guys need a red light district. You need the sex workers unions to speak up. You need more needles handed out. You need more people communicating about who has AIDS, what hookers are on the street giving out AIDS, doing things without protection, making the other people carriers. We need more of a communication. You guys need to get in touch with HPD. They do it on Cajillo. They do it in San Francisco. They do it in Miami. Let's teach you how to do this. Let's help you guys get back up on your feet and make some money. I want to see Guam like it was in the 70s. I want to see Guam on its feet. I will be pitching 3 sales, like I said, with Department of Corrections and the Boys Ranch. Also with Marriott Corporation to build the W Hotel, where the W is at locally right now. And more than ever, with Four Seasons Hotel Group, I will be pitching a multi-million-dollar project, eco-friendly homes, not just timeshares, but planned communities that will not disturb anything. These are tertiary processed quadruplexes that are multi-million-dollar. Money coming to the island. My very good friend is Sicilian and Polish. Her grandfather was the president of Conrail. Her husband is a Korean diplomat. They will be coming here to look at some land. She's a prosecutor in the state of Pennsylvania. Senior year at Widener University, she prosecutes child molesters. Let's utilize this law, that syntax. Let's get more people on vice. Let's work the street. Let's have more people on the street that communicate, because once you legalize pot, and I'm not talking about medicinal, because then you're going to have M17 come in, look at California, look at the gang issues, go up to Humboldt, go to Long Beach, look at all the break-ins. If you legalize it all the way, you're going to avoid that 10 years of, I'm not going to use the word. Basically, grow-ups getting robbed 3 days before, doctors lying in their pockets, crooked doctors coming in with fake paperwork, and nonetheless, more gang-related activity. Completely eliminating that issue and legalizing recreationally marijuana, as in ganja, bacarolo, will eliminate that problem. It will bring money to Guam. It will bring tax money in, and it's going to eliminate the sex slaves that you have that are being passed around in and out of certain locations. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and effort. I wish you all the best. In the name of Mr. Villanueva's, I appreciate all of your time, energy, and effort. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson, for your testimony this afternoon. This concludes the discussion on this the public hearing on Bill number 8-34 COR. Just to close the discussion today, recognizing that in fact Mr. Eric Palacios came in on behalf of the governor, who was the initial sponsor and mover of this piece of legislation. He came in and stated that the governor has rescinded his push for this particular legislation. Now, acknowledging that, and with all the testimony that's been provided this afternoon, it will be up to Speaker Cruz to dispose of this particular legislation whichever way he sees necessary under his purview. So this concludes the public hearing. Thank you very much, everyone.